I've hired and trained hundreds of sales reps over 15 years, and in this video, I'm going to show you my 3-step sales coaching system that you can use to drive performance in your business. This is going to help you convert sales more consistently, get more return out of your marketing dollars, and actually grow your business. Because your business is only going to grow if the sales team is performing consistently. So you have to have a system in place for identifying who's underperforming, what they need to do to improve, and how to coach them to make that improvement. So let's dive in. So think of like NFL coaches on any given week. What are they doing between weeks to make their teams better? Well, they're doing 3 things. First, they're going to study game film. Okay. So they're doing that to identify gaps. So they're studying game film to identify the gaps. Then from there, that's going to tell them what type of game plan to put together. So the game plan is the strategy. This is how we're going to improve. And then from there, they've got to execute. So then we've got to go out on Sunday and actually execute what we worked on. So execute. So this is where we're actually implementing what we learned. This is the implementation phase. Implementation. There we go. All right. So first thing we got to do is we've got to identify the gaps. So what's our version of game film? What's our version of that when we're running the sales team? So this is the number one thing that you've got to do every week to know what to work on. One of the challenges that most owners have is that they don't really understand like what's wrong with sales and how to improve it. When you go to the sales team or the sales manager, what's going on with sales? You might be if you're getting unclear answers or answers that don't really add up, then we've got to start here. Okay, so here's what we do first. There's 3 things to identifying the gaps. The first is the KPI system. So we've got to look at the KPIs. And so as a sales leader should have a KPI dashboard that shows every step of the sales experience, from leads, booked calls, calls that showed up, pitches that were given, or presentations that were delivered, clients that were enrolled, and then that's going to spit out conversion rates, gross sales, collected sales. And so one of the key things that I always look for, and I have all my managers look for, is looking through the lens of sales efficiency. It's not very useful to just look at sales overall volume produced, because if you've got sales reps that have different variety of lead makeups and volume of leads, then that's not really going to give you a clear picture. So your job as a sales leader, the job of the sales team, is to get the most dollars extracted out of the leads that are coming in. So you want to look at it through the lens of sales efficiency rather than just strictly sales volume. It's a more intelligent way to look. So look at dollars per lead. And when you look at dollars per lead, now if you can get even more sophisticated with it, you can break down the leads into lead types or lead classes through scoring systems. And now each lead has a different value. And once you know the lead value, then that can spit out, okay, what should someone's performance be? What's our baseline performance on an A lead, on a B lead, on a C lead, however you score your leads? What is that baseline performance? Now, when we know that and we can look at the dashboard, we should be able to see how our team is performing across those leads through the lens of sales efficiency. And we can look at it by sales rep. And then now that can give us clues to who's underperforming and who's overperforming, who's driving the performance up, who's driving the team average up, and where are we driving the team average down? Who's pulling the average down? Those are the areas, those are the people that we've got to pay attention to. So it's really important to look at this every single week and not just be like, oh, we did really well last week. Because if you're running a sales team, okay, that has several different salespeople on it, then you're always going to have somebody that needs attention and underperforming. So the first steps, the manager, is to identify who is underperforming and where are they underperforming based on this KPI dashboard. So we want to have a really clean place to look at those KPIs. What you don't want is for your manager to be clicking through a bunch of different CRMs, having to pull reports, dirty data, unclear numbers. Without that, they're really just guessing. Okay, so we want to have a good KPI system to look at. Then that's going to tell us, that's going to lead to a CRM review. What we want to do is we want to look through the lead profiles and the notes. One of the challenges that will happen is if you just go to the sales rep and say, hey, you're underperforming. What are you running into? What's the problem? Sales reps aren't that great at self-diagnosing. The only thing they remember is that the leads didn't have any money. The people they talked to didn't have any money. So you're going to get a lot of, oh, well, I just talked to a lot of people that they couldn't afford it, or they didn't have the money for it. Because yes, that is part of their job. They're going to talk to a lot of people that can't afford the program or the product, but that's all they're going to remember. But that's not really true. So what you want to do is a CRM review. You want to look through all the leads that they worked, look at the lead profiles, and look at the notes. And what you're wanting to identify here is, where are the missed sales opportunities? Where did people fall off that weren't specifically just a money problem, like they couldn't afford the actual program? And they're going to be in there. I just did a review for a client a few weeks ago. There was a rep that had 12 appointments. The rep just kept saying, all the leads are broke, yada, yada, yada. I did the CRM review and I said, hey, look, there were 12 appointments. He went 0 for 12. Yes, there were 6 of them that had money objections, but look at these other 6 that didn't have, it was something else. So that's what we want to dig into. So we want to identify where are those problems, where are those missed opportunities, because now that's going to tell us what calls to listen to. Now we're going to listen to those calls. Call reviews are really powerful, but if you don't have a system for identifying what calls to listen to, then it's just you're kind of just looking for a needle in the haystack. It's a little bit of a crapshoot for, are you going to really get anything out of it? And it's time consuming. So you want to make sure that you're listening to calls with intent. So if you do a KPI review, a CRM review, and you have call reviews, now you have an idea of what the sales rep's problem is. Where do they need to improve? And so that's the next step. So once we've identified the gaps, now we go into our game plan and the strategy. Now, when you're identifying these gaps, you're going to notice that with an underperforming sales rep, there's not just one thing. There's probably a lot of different things that you're hearing on the call that they need to work on. But you can't just throw everything at them all at once, or else they're not really going to be able to implement all of those things. So here we want to be strategic with how we diagnose. Okay, so we want to diagnose the main thing that they can work on that's going to have the biggest difference. This is where your sales system, you want to have a very solid framework in place that people are meant to follow. So when you hear the calls, okay, they're getting off course here, or this objection or this scenario is throwing them off, we know where they're getting off track, and we can help them get back on track. So you want to have a strong sales framework in place that everybody's meant to kind of follow, and so that you can diagnose what the main issue is. So once we diagnose, now we have to go to the next step, which is prescribe. So we have to prescribe. We're going to go ahead and prescribe what they're going to need to do to improve in that area. One of the common problems that sales leaders run into is they just identify the gaps, and they bring the sales rep in and they say, okay, you're struggling here, go work on it, go improve in that area, go fix it, or you better go fix it, or else, your job's on the line, or you're not going to get as much opportunity. So, you better go fix it. And that's not very effective. You can imagine that's not very effective. So this is where the sales leader has to have some strategic plays in mind. They have to think about, how can I facilitate making this guy get better, making this sales rep improve? How can I help them get better in this area? Because if you just leave it up to the sales rep, hey, you're struggling with the spouse objection, go work on the spouse objection. Or hey, you're not building any urgency, go get better at that. They're not going to really know what to do and how to fix that. Even if they do agree with you, they're not going to know how to fix it. So you want to have some plays. This is where the coach develops a game plan and strategic plays that the players can execute that are going to make them better. And so here, this is where we want to have things like a training library. So maybe they got to watch a training or go through a training to get better. So a training library is a good thing to continue to build as a sales leader. You've got a call library. Okay, so call libraries could be very powerful. So keep a call library. When you see successful calls, okay, identify those calls, put them in a library, label them, and use them when people are struggling in certain areas. You can be like, oh, there's a great call that dealt with that challenge. So that way you have that in the future. So you're going to prescribe maybe some call reviews. Okay, the other thing we're going to have to do is role play and practice. Like that is a big one. Most of the times when we work with clients, we help them develop their sales teams, we're noticing that their sales team does not have a culture of practice and role playing. And imagine an NFL team that went just Sunday to Sunday without practicing in between. They just showed up on game day and just hoped for the best. How well do you think they would do in the league? Probably not. They probably wouldn't win that many games. Same with your sales reps. This should be something that should be normalized on the team. Role playing and practicing. Most sales reps don't really know what practice feels like because they've never been in a culture that facilitates practice and makes that part of the culture. So make sure if this is part of the normal culture where we're role playing, where we're practicing on the regular basis anyway, then this is going to be an easy prescription. If not, then all of a sudden you're having them do this weird extra thing. So it can be met with a little resistance, but role plays are going to be really, really powerful. And the other one is exercises. So exercises, depending on the situation, they could be, maybe they've got to write scripts, maybe they've got to do some industry research, maybe they've got to listen to some client success stories, or go talk to another department leader in the company to get a little bit more insight in that area. There's a lot of different ways you can sit or facilitate goals exercises or certain things like that that'll help them kind of connect with what they're missing on. There's all different things that you can do. So your job as a sales leader here is to prescribe what should that rep go do to get better in this area. And then we move into the execute phase. This is the implementation. So we've identified the gaps, we've diagnosed it, we've got the prescription, we know what they should be working on. Now we've got to bring them in and get them bought into this idea and this process. So this is where we want to bring them in for some one-on-one coaching. Okay, so we're bringing them in, and the big thing here is to get them open to feedback, get them receptive to feedback, and get them to build their desire for doing the work that we're going to prescribe them. The work that we're prescribing them is extra work. It's extra time that they're not selling. They have to spend their time carving their craft, mastering their craft. So we've got to get buy-in for this. So the execution of this one-on-one coaching session is really, really important because that's what's going to determine if you're going to get it adopted or not. If you do this poorly, then the sales rep's either going to yes you to death or just push back in resistance, and nothing's going to really get done, and you're going to deal with the same thing over and over and over again. This is the challenge that most owners face, is that they've got a sales leader in place that, hey, they hired a couple sales reps. They had one person stand out, perform really well, had a high close rate. And then they said, okay, I'm going to put this person in charge of sales. And that makes a lot of sense in the moment, but the problem is that leading a sales team is a different skill set than being a top performer on a sales team. And so oftentimes the top performer, they may not have those skills yet. They've got to bridge that gap. And so they got to develop those leadership skills and get better in the role because it's a totally different role. So this one-on-one coaching session, what it should not be is just a browbeating session. Oh, you better get you're doing poorly here. Why are you doing so bad? We trained on this already. You better turn this around or else. Or the sales leader is so worried that they want to, that they're going to ruffle feathers. They're too soft on the rep, and they're not helping them get better. They're not even delivering any feedback. So here's how this is the method that we're going to follow for our one-on-one coaching session. So it's called PACE. And this is the best framework that's worked hundreds and hundreds of times in one-on-one coaching session. The P is for praise. So you always want to make sure that you're praising the sales rep for what they're doing right. Find something that they're doing well. They love getting compliments. You've got to make sure that you're praising them for what they're doing well. The second is appreciation. So find a way to appreciate them for the effort they've put in and their contribution to the team. Now, you might feel like they can work harder or they need to put in a little bit more effort, but in their eyes, they're working hard, they're trying their best, they're always working their tail off. So show appreciation. Now, if you do this regularly through day-to-day course of interaction, you're praising them and you're appreciating them, then this coaching session is a lot easier. But always lead with praise and appreciation. Then we're going to get into correction. So the correction is where we're going to deliver the feedback. Now, the key here is to make sure that you communicate the effort that you've put in prior to just delivering the feedback. They need to know that you put in work to find and deliver this message. This didn't just come out of the blue. You didn't just pull it from your rear end, that this is based on work that you put in. So it might sound something like, hey, John, brought you in here because I noticed that you were struggling a little bit. Your performance is right here, and I know that your goals is to perform right up here. And so I saw that, I noticed that, and I said, I'm going to put in some work to see what I can find and if there's any ways I can help you improve. And so what I did was I looked through the KPIs, I combed through the KPIs, I saw some clues in there, I saw some things that I thought, we might be able to fix. And then I started looking into the CRM to analyze the leads that you were working and the type of clients that you've been on the phone with. And then I went a step further and actually listened to the calls, and I started trying to diagnose and look for ways that I can help you improve. And I came up with a couple things that I really think are going to help you take it from here to here. That's going to absolutely change the way that you perform and you get results here. And so that part of the conversation is really important because now they heard that you actually put in work and you care about their results. So then you're going to deliver the feedback. What did you diagnose? And then what did you prescribe? What do you suggest they do? Get them bought into doing that. And then you're always going to end it with encouragement. So you want to end with expressing your belief in their ability to make these shifts and achieve these better results. You know, John, if you do these things, I really believe you're going to be able to, win here. You're going to take your performance up here. You're going to be able to meet these goals. You're going to make the money you want to make, achieve these different goals that you want to hit, and just show and express encouragement. So that way they walk out of that meeting knowing and feeling that you're in their corner. Now, we're not done there. We have to always set up follow-up. Okay, follow-up. So this is going to be done through an email. So you always want to summarize the meeting in writing, put an email together with next steps and expectations. So what are the expectations out of this? They're going to do these exercises, and then what? You're going to check in with them at a certain time to see how it's going. Their KPIs are going to move from here to here. What are the specific expectations and timelines for the next move? And then when you're going to do that, you're going to put this on the calendar, on their calendar and on your calendar. And that way you guys have this follow-up system in place that's going to hold them accountable. And now you guys are going to have this relationship to know that, okay, I'm coming in a week or 2 weeks or whenever it is, and they're going to want to be prepared. They're going to be more likely to do the work and focus on the thing that they need to work on. This is what sales coaching looks like. This is the day-to-day operations of the sales leader to keep the team performing at a high level, because there are always people on the team that need this coaching. And if you do this well, then you're going to keep everybody performing at a high level. You're going to keep sales results consistent, and you're always going to have a finger on the pulse for what's going on the sales team. So if you'd like some more help with training your sales team or your sales leadership, then click on the link in the description to just take a look at what that looks like to work with us. And I'll see you on the next one.